Hello and welcome to Caesar's Snack Sandwich. Today I have a quick video for you on Quintes protocol. Now Quintes is something that's not out yet. It's not deployed. It's not new. It's kind of still in the building phase. But I have read through this documentation here and I'm going to explain to you how this thing works with a flowchart. Now before I get into that, I will preface that with the idea that I'm basing my understanding on this documentation here, and like I said, this is pre-deployment, so this is subject to some sort of changes or ideation. There could be differences based on how I'm explaining this versus what is actually goes live when this protocol goes live. Okay, so as always, I would suggest you to read the docs if you have access to these docs and kind of verify what I'm saying, but I will try my best to explain this as easy and as easy to understand as possible. So let's swing over to the flowchart and kind of understand how things are going there. Okay, so here we are on the flowchart. We have dollar bill. Dollar bill has some assets, maybe some ETH or USDC. These assets are obviously, again, up to change. They could be WBTC, there could be USDT. Depends on the protocol when it actually goes live. You would have to verify this. But for this example, I'm going to use USDC as his collateral inside the Quintes protocol. So the first thing he does is he uses his USDC to mint some QNT tokens. Okay, so 300 USDC goes in, he can mint 100 QNT tokens with a collateral ratio of 200%. Now obviously he's right on the collateral ratio line, so maybe he would want to do something a little more conservative, maybe 80 or 60 or something like this, just to lower that collateral ratio a little bit, because he does not want to get liquidated, right? So, but this is ideal situation. So $300 in, 100 QNT tokens out. Okay. Now, because he has minted some QNT, he's going to be rewarded with QST, which is the reward governance token of the Quintes protocol. I will talk more about this token later when I get through the slides. So the first thing he can do with this QNT token is he can take it to Curve. He can sell it for whatever the other token happens to be in the pool. But in this case, I'm using USDC just to keep things simple. But or he can provide some liquidity on Curve in the QNT USDC pool and earn some CRV rewards, or any other like DEXs or other places in DeFi where this token is supported. He can take those tokens, those QNT tokens there, and earn some rewards. Now, what makes this thing really special is up until this point, it looks exactly like a stable coin, right? Because it's going to Curve, it's 1 to 1, $1, blah, blah, blah. But so at first, since dollar bill is the very first person to mint on day one, he can get 1 QNT for $1 US. However, the protocol is going to consider QNT to be an appreciating asset. So it's always going up in value. And it's going up in value by like a maximum of 33% per year, which equates to about 0.27% every 3 days. Now, this is a adjustable number, but like this is ideal. This is the maximum or how much it would grow. So in this pool, he would put 100 in here. There would be 100 USDC in here. But slowly, the protocol is going to look at this pool and be like, oh, it's off balance, because we are starting to require more and more collateral to get 100, and it's like so 0.27% every 3 days. He will have to like increase his collateral by that much, or if he were to come 3 days later, he would need even more. He would need more than 300 to get 100 of these QNTs, if that makes sense. Now moving on, so we've got these spot-based high-frequency SEX trading. So this is what Quintes is going to do. It's going to take the collateral. So in this case, it's USDC, but maybe there's some ETH in there, or some Tether, or some other tokens, and it's going to take these tokens or some portion of these tokens, and it's going to take them to like centralized exchanges and do this spot-based high-frequency trading. Now, there is a little bit of trust in that the system, that they're going to perform well, but they do quote that they can perform this quite well, and that they are confident that they can do this kind of spot-based high-frequency trading without significant losses, or without without losses at all. Okay. Now I'm not exactly sure what spot-based high frequency trading is, but I can guess, right? So I would guess it would just be like, you know, small little opening closings, just as long as it's a profitable trade to open and then close if it's in profit, and you know take into account the fees and stuff like that on Binance. So anyhow, that's what they're going to do with the collateral. And because they're doing that with the collateral, they are increasing the collateral in the system, and therefore they're able to increase the value of the QNT through this system. So that's how they're increasing the value of QNT by that. Now the system is not going to, it's going to increase the value of QNT regardless of the performance of this system over here. It's just going to like understand that this system has to keep up with the increasing, as opposed to the increase, the spot based is going to increase the values, if that makes sense. So QNT is going to go up in value regardless of the spot based trading value actually performing well enough. So this is something dollar bill has to keep in mind, right? Because if this spot-based high-frequency trading is not performing very well at some point, he might need to add more collateral to keep his collateral ratio like above that 200%. So moving on. So we have a sophisticated actor in the space. He's monitoring this situation. He knows that QNT is going up in value every 3 days on like randomized like times. Like it's not predictable when that it's going to happen, but he knows that it is going to go up. So he's monitoring this pool, and he's monitoring the value of one QNT on Quintes. And if he finds that the value inside this pool of one QNT is worth less, below the target price on the Quintes protocol, then he might buy some of the QNT and redeem it for some of the assets that are still in the system. Now, of course, he can go the other way as well. So like if he finds that the QNT is worth more because people have been buying it a lot for some reason, as per speculation, they're maybe speculating on it, or they're FOMOing it, then he can mint some and sell it, right? So he's going to arb this thing and kind of maintain the peg in the markets versus the value, the target price value in the Quintes protocol. Moving on. So this QTS token has some utilities. Okay, so he's earned it by minting, right? And there's another way to earn it as well. So the first thing is it is the token of governance for the Quintes protocol. So if this, they find that this 33% per year or 0.27% every 3 days is too aggressive or too fast, these QTS holders can vote on that and change this, reduce this amount. I think the numbers was between 18% and 33%. Okay, so another thing is the QTS can be minted or given to peg keepers. I'll show you the peg keepers in a second, but so the QTS holders can vote to give QTS tokens to the peg keepers if that is something that is needed. Okay. And then the other thing the QTS thing can vote on is the collateral percentages. So maybe they don't want a whole bunch of ETH, they want mostly USDC. So they're going to say, like only 10% of the backing can be ETH or whatever other token happens to come. So maybe they decide to add another token to the system as collateral. Then they get to vote on what percentage of the total supply is backed by that specific token. Okay, moving on. So another thing that they talk about is earning, so revenue sharing, I suppose. Now this is a little bit of an assumption by me. So the QTS can get some of the revenue. Now I assume that the revenue will come from the spot base performing better than 33% per year or whatever the target growth is. So they might take a performance fee on this spot-based high-frequency trading, and then there also might be some minting fees or redemption fees to kind of keep the peg not very, very tight, but sort of tight, right? So there might be some revenue sharing for this QTS people by staking. I assume that these people would be the same. You would stake, you would get revenue share, and you would be able to vote, but I'm not certain on that either. Moving on. So another thing that the QTS can do is you can use QTS to back some QNT. So you can use QTS to actually mint some QNT. Now again, you know, these collateral percentages will govern this. Like, it's not going to be unlimited. It's going to be limited. Like, maybe only 10% of the entire QNT supply can be backed by QTS. So dollar bill, he's getting this QTS because he's minted. He might want to do this quickly when those ratios are allowing, when there's that cap is not met, and then maybe he can even use that QTS to avoid liquidation at times, right? So he can use it to back his currently his currently minted QNTS. Now, of course, if he does find that his collateral ratio is getting risky, he can always bring back some QNT as well, right? So pay off some of his debt instead of adding more collateral. Moving on. So yeah, so if the collateral ratio is scary to him, he can do some of those different things. Now, the last thing we need to talk about are these peg keepers. Now, these peg keepers act in a very similar role to this guy up here, to Gary Green. So they're going to, you know, monitor the pool, and when this thing is below, they're going to buy it and redeem it, or when it's above, they're going to sell it, right? So one of the things that can possibly happen is this dollar bill can he can take this QNT and he can stake it into the peg keepers, so kind of like a stability mechanism, right? So he can stake some QTS, and the smart contract will do this automated process that Gary Green is doing, and I assume that they're going to give some QTS rewards for this. And then it says QTS for peg keepers. Remember that the governance can decide to allow the peg allow this peg keeper to use QTS to mint QNT, sell it for USDC at times. So if it's going this way through the system, it might not need USDC. It can use some QTS. Now, it does say this is a mechanism of last resort. So they're not going to do this quite frequently. They're mostly going to allow this QTS to hold a like a balance of USDC or collaterals, right? ETH, and also hold a balance of QNT, and then just arb this pool both ways. Okay, so that's basically how I understand this based on what I've read. As I will preface this again, or I will say it again, that you know, this is subject to change. You know, things can change because this is pre-deployment. This project is not quite live yet. So as always, you know, this is just an introduction to give you an idea of how things might work in this protocol and the major design mechanism that is here. So I think it's pretty cool. I really like this idea that it's built like a stable coin, but it has the idea of this QNT. It's not a stable coin. It's an appreciating token. It's always going to be going up in value and so forth. So I think it's pretty clever. It's definitely something new, and I haven't seen this around too much. So thank you so much for watching, and goodbye.